Yeah, I think that volunteering in the shop, just getting access to consumers and what they want and what they're interested in, and the sort of um, the real life experience of shopping and loving books is just, it's a great window into how people are actually interacting with the stuff we sell. Um, it's one of those things where it's easy to get trapped in kind of a bubble where you're like, why didn't this book work? And then you see somebody pick it up in the store and there's so much information just in the way they hold the book and the way they came to it. And that's something you don't get everywhere. I think I come at recommendations and that kind of hand book selling through a data angle, which I don't think everybody necessarily does. Um, and yeah, I mean, I've worked in all different spots in the company, so I've had some sales, some assisting. I feel like um, there's lots. I can bring lots of lots of different hats or like responsibilities to the way I interact with a given customer. I chose to volunteer in the shop because, as I mentioned earlier, it's that way to get direct customer interaction, and it's a way to get out of the filter bubble of working with data all day and working with the same data sets, where you get into the messy real world way that people interact with books. And I think it's a great being in the shop. I feel like everyone who wants to get into publishing, they should spend some time trying to hand sell books, because it's an eye opener. There are people interact with books in very different ways, and it's very easy to put the way that you interact with books on and project that onto other people. And the store kind of helps get out of that. I'm a design nerd. I love Apple products. I love things that are beautifully made, and I just feel like walking into that store, especially when you know it's been recently merchandised and it's clean, and it just looks so beautiful. I think it's fun. It's a really like nice space, and such a like small kind of secret space. Like you wouldn't necessarily. I can imagine people walking into the store not really knowing anything about it and being like, "Oh, what's this crazy thing?" Like, so that yeah, that's the part that I like the best. My favorite customer interaction in the shop, I was opening, I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, midweek morning, and there are these two guys standing with their noses like kind of pressed up to the window. And I was like, oh, that's odd. And yeah, it was a father son. I opened the door and they sort of, I wasn't, the cash wasn't in the drawer, wasn't even ready for them. And they snuck in and immediately started looking at books. And I was like, what kind of like book emergency is going on here that they need to absolutely get in so quickly? But it turns out it was son's going on a long-term canoe trip in Colorado and wants to bring some books. We're the closest bookstore, so they actually were in kind of a book emergency. I think people should come visit the shop because the smallness of the store is kind of unique in its own way. I think we're faced, you look at Netflix, you look at a book retailer's website, you just see book after book after book after book. There's so many options, and there's a kind of natural filter built in. It's all been curated by hand. Like all the books that are in the store are in there for a reason. We think they're great. We stand behind them. So I mean, there are lots of other bookstores that do exactly the same thing. There's just something about the smallness of it that I think is kind of a unique experience. The smallness and the beautiful like design. Everything's close at hand. Everything's easy to get to. It all looks good. I think one of the reasons like I work at this company at all is Dave Eggers' heartbreaking work of Staggering Genius. It's just a book that came along at the right time in my life and felt like he was speaking directly to me, and just I'd never read anything like it. I think just such stylistic innovation, such amazingly well drawn characters, and just set in a world that was, I don't know, just very familiar, but also very rich with emotional meaning, and I don't know, just changed my life kind of in its own quiet way. But yeah, that was that first book that just I couldn't believe that it was capable of delivering such a like transformative experience. So